Hurricane, a tidal wave. Essence perfect, life looks brilliant. Give me more of this. I'm out of control, about to blow, and I've been caught in the undertow. So toxic, but I can't get enough. You bury me, bury me. Yeah, you bury me, bury me. You've got me hypnotized. Push me out of myself. You've got me hypnotized. I can see, I can hear, going crazy, but the light has got me hypnotized. You've got me hypnotized. Get you out of my hand again. Is it wrong? Is it right? It's like I've won my final war without a fight. I'm out of control, about to blow, and I've been caught in the undertow. So toxic, but I can't get enough. You bury me, bury me. I know you bury me, bury me. You've got me hypnotized. Push me out of myself. You've got me hypnotized. I can see, I can hear, going crazy, but the light has got me hypnotized. You've got me hypnotized. You get you out.
Please note.
Never gonna stop, never gonna change, never gonna do the things you say. I run my own way to get there. Pulls a coin that I don't seem to care. In the air, no more crowd, just the opposite kind of few clouds. So tell me the storm is coming, for the sake of all your lies. Why don't you try to be wise? Know that I need you anyway.
Wanted to be alive, just to feel like I'm fading. And though my heart breaks a beat of down, I've got the lens just to tell you, don't lead the way, don't leave a say. Then I drown with a cosplay in the rain. I feel like I'm fading.
I am in misery.
Everyone is watching me when I'm coming around. They all are judging me when I'm lying on the ground. I've got no shelter, I've got no escape. My life is a prison and I can't run away. I feel it in my bones, I'm losing it all. Stuck in my head, I am in misery. Deep inside myself, all I get, my only family. Stuck in the grave, can someone rescue me? I'm burning alive, I got it, I am in misery.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Taking Over. I am, of course, OLED Ed Fries, and I'm joined by the Nastral, the queen of our local establishment, Hollywood Astrid herself, the natural Ash Pizarro. Astrid, how you doing tonight?
Doing all right. How are you doing?
I am doing well, back after a much-needed break last week. Thank you for Kimmy for jumping in and hopping in with you to go ahead and talk about all of the wonderful things that happened and some of the terrible things that happened on NXT last week.
Yeah, this week was better. Sorry, Kimmy. Unfortunately,
Was it? Was it though?
well, I feel like
Was
the matches are better. Yeah, I feel like the last week I couldn't highlight much of the matches. It was more like the storytelling, but I feel like some of the matches are better this week in that instance. If that makes sense.
I'll say two of the matches were top tier matches this week.
Well, there you go. More than last week.
Yes, but there was less Andre Chase this week.
That's bittersweet.
But Andre Chase is going to have to find his bravado all over again. So
I'll give you brownie points for that one.
we are, of course, here as Vic Joseph tells us. It is the final NXT before deadline, except for next week's NXT, which was a fun goof by Vic Joseph doing the cold open today.
I mean, I don't blame him. The way time is going, it feels like it's only 1 week.
Yeah. By the way, what did they say about Orlando? Like, he was doing the package, and he's like, they call Orlando, and it's like some like beautiful city. I'm like,
Oh, the city beautiful. I don't get
yeah.
it.
I'm like, really? One, that's not proper English, which makes sense for Florida, and two,
You do know we do have more than just American heritage here, so probably why.
yes, I understand.
Making sure.
But that's why I said that makes sense for Florida since it's not proper English.
Oh, there you go.
We've got Chris Parrish in the chat. Hello, Mr. Parrish. Yeah, I know. I thought NXT last week was. I enjoyed NXT last week, to be honest with you. I thought it was a relatively good show. I mean,
it wasn't bad. It just like I feel like there was nothing to really highlight during the matches, though. That's
yeah. Speaking of nothing to highlight, Rich Holland comes out and cuts the best promo of his career. Why is it the best promo of his career? Because he said one line. Good job, Rich. Don't give a shit. As our post-show guest, Dorian Santana, said, NXT, there is nothing you can do to make me interested in this match.
I agree with Santana.
There is nothing NXT can do to make me feel like this is an important match.
I feel like for me, based on how it's been and the track record they have lately, the women should main event. They haven't main evented for like what 3 PLEs I think in a row, and it's been mostly Trick and Ethan, and the matches haven't been that great.
Mhm.
So,
I mean, I wholeheartedly think that the women should main event. However, since we don't have a women's championship match because our champion is taking time off for checks note no reason.
much well-earned time off. There you go.
No, that's not what I said. That is
Yep.
definitely not what I said.
I know that's what you meant. Don't worry about it.
I
It's
said
okay.
checks
I got you.
notes for
I
no
got you.
reason whatsoever.
No, I got you. You just got the worry wrong. It's okay.
You know what? I think she thought she's still on ROH where champions don't have to show up for work.
Oh my gosh.
But no, like, this is your last PLE of the year. She should be on the card.
Well,
It's not
you're
like
number
you're
2.
lacking in contenders for this. They had 3 to choose from, and they chose to shove all of them in the Iron Survivor.
It's just, I feel like the only downfall of like that. I feel like that's the only downfall of having the Iron Survivor, because between 25 minutes here and 25 minutes here, that basically takes a whole hour away of this PLE, which is usually what 3 or 4 hours the most.
3 hours at most, 2.5.
Yeah.
3 hours.
So I was say like between that, I feel like it doesn't give much time for, and then you have already Trick and Rich. That's probably gonna take 20 to 30 minutes almost.
Are you
I was
serious? That match will take 10, 15 tops.
Well, that's
I don't
that's
think
our
Rich can
hope.
go 30.
That's our hope, but let's say at least 20 minutes to exaggerate. You know, so
That's
we'll
still, even if they go 30 minutes, which they can't, but even if they could, that still leaves you an hour and a half for Axiom and Nathan to defend their tag team championships, which is, again, 30 minutes tops. And then you still have an entire hour. For what? You've not built anything.
Yeah.
What, Ethan versus Shawn, Eddie versus Shawn Michaels? That seems to be the match they're apparently trying to build now.
I was gonna say, being that this way we got the North American Championships, it gives you the vibe that they're not gonna be on the card.
Yeah, we got them both this week. There's probably little. I'll say this. There's little to no chance that Fallon defends
Mm-hmm.
at this show. I still think, and no, on top of it, unless Stax and Luca win the tag team battle royal next week, we're probably getting the 6th person at the pay-per-view.
Okay.
We were just talking. Oh, I was just talking about Shawn Michaels versus Eddie Thorpe. As I don't know what they're doing here. It's stupid. It's dumb. They really shouldn't be doing it. But fine.
Well, she'll be fine because of her bloodline.
She will be fine because of her bloodline. A+ for Trick on that one. Although that seems a little too on the nose, don't you think?
Compared to the other ones, yes.
I'm surprised he didn't make a Moana reference. Because that's what I would have done. If I were Trick Williams, it would have been a Moana reference with Moana opening tomorrow.
I was gonna say Eddie would say, "You're welcome." Something. It's not stupid, but he says something like that at least. But yeah.
I mean, it is. We'll get more into it as we get, but it is. I mean, it's all fueling an Eddie Thorpe heel turn, which fine, but I don't care enough about Eddie Thorpe to care about the heel turn.
And you can blame NXT for that too, because they haven't
I
given us
agree.
much
No,
of Eddie
I
to
agree. It's
care enough
Shawn
about him
Michaels'
to begin
fault.
with.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but the only time heel turns, all right, Eddie Thorpe turning heel and Lexis King turning babyface. Those don't matter because we don't care about them. Clock that with the New Day and the potential heel turn of one or both members of the New Day. We care about them because we love them. So thus we care about what they're doing in the heel turn we're going to get.
Mhm.
Look at Naomi. She protests too much because she destroyed Jade Cargill through a fucking car window. Yes, Naomi, you did it. Stop lying. Anyways, we'll talk more about that when Survivor Series Post Show happens this weekend. We then get to Ethan versus Axiom in the match that Astrid told everyone to shut up and not talk to her. Shut up! Her boys were on TV. What you got, Astrid?
I mean, that match. I was kind of concerned about it because I know they have different styles. I wasn't sure how they were gonna be doing well together. I feel like it's one of those like instances that you won't know until it actually happens. So it takes that moment once they started, I was like, you can keep going. I don't mind it. Everything's. I was just mostly thinking either way I win because one of them is gonna be in the Iron Survivor, but still it's gonna be bittersweet for the loser for me. But again, I feel like they had a great chemistry. I think the only slip up was at one point that Axiom did um, the super Spanish fly, and Ethan slipped based on the camera angle they gave us. But they're like, no, he's trying to counter it. And I like that the commentary is trying to save him as well. It's like, oh no, he's trying to counter it. That's why it happened. And we went still to the Spanish fly, and it was the Eagle's Edge that got reversed from the top as well. That was another thing that I was waiting to see. I was hoping he wouldn't counter it because I wanted to see it, but I'm glad that he countered it at the same time. And that backbreaker that Ethan did to Axiom on the post too. I was like, that's another thing. I was like, yeah. It definitely hurt me inside. But again, as I figured Ethan would be the winner in Axiom, it's part of the last chance that we get next week.
Yeah, it was a fine match. I thought it was really good. I thought the boys, did their job. They had a good match. Was it an extraordinary match? No, not really. It was really, really good. They did a lot of fun things. They both did the things that they're really good at. Ethan Page was strategic in taking out Axiom's back. If you take out Axiom's back, you slow him down and he can't do all the things he wants to do. Axiom was doing all of the flippy shit that he likes to do. It worked out well. They had good chemistry. The match was good. I take issue with everything that came after the match. So first you get Ethan on the microphone saying his piece, which leads to Nathan being on the microphone saying his piece, which leads to Wesley coming out with a new haircut and saying his piece, which leads to Javon Evans coming out and saying something. I think he said this match is gonna get bouncy, but I honestly couldn't understand what the fuck he said. But yeah, he came out too.
Yeah.
And then out came the tag teams because, you know, Ava told the tag teams, you need to prove yourself and you know, be a cut above. And all they've done since then is brawl. You know, Ava, what you should have done is set up matches to let them, you know, prove themselves to you. But no, we've had 3 weeks of them fighting in every segment they could possibly fight in. I'm fucking sick and tired of it. I honestly want them to take the tag team titles away from NXT until they learn to play with their toys properly.
It's like, I feel like the only thing I didn't like about this is the fact that, like you said, she says, oh, like, step up, prove yourself. Brawling doesn't really, like, give you anything towards that point that she gave. It doesn't support it. It's like you said, it would have been better if she made some kind of tournament. It's like, hey, we're going to make a bracket. Whoever wins the tournament goes against, you know, Nathan and Axiom at the pay-per-view. Something. But, like, telling them, prove yourselves, is like, and then they just, like, it feels like you're giving them no direction and they're just taking it any way they want.
Yeah.
Unless you stop it. And it's been 3 weeks that she didn't stop it. And even this week, they were brawling in the back at one point and she just walked away before everything happened. So I was like, you're not even helping. It's like,
she didn't walk away. She paid for it too. We'll get to that
later. Yeah, later. But the first part, she just walked away when all the teams started coming out. Everybody in the parking lot, and she was nowhere to be found. It was Stone and Stevie after the second time they put them in the parking lot. So even then, it's like, literally, there's nobody stopping them whatsoever in that way either. I think the only part that I liked about this is just more than anything, how they keep like going to that dagger with Axiom and Nathan, because Ethan's like, oh, I just beat your partner, and you know, he's like, it's the driving force of the
strong
team.
horse for the team.
Yeah, and he's like, Axiom is not the driving force. He's like, I know what you're doing. He's like, amigo, that's not what I meant. It's like that kind of thing. I really enjoyed just because of what the storyline is happening there. But aside from that, I feel like this kind of promo from all the competitors, we should have waited until next week when you have everybody, rather than leaving it like incomplete like this.
It's just a fucking mess. Yeah, I mean, he might have watched some old Roderick Strong ROH tapes on the backbreakers, because Roderick Strong is, if nothing else, the messiah of the backbreaker. We then move on to the women's locker room segment where Stephanie Vaquer and Lola Vice talk about how Lola Vice helped Stephanie win, and Stephanie was like, I didn't need you to help me win. And Lola was like, no, I know you didn't need to, but I had to make sure you won. And I'm like, Lola, why the fuck do you give a damn if she wins?
Like,
and why are you still after Jada Parker? She beat you with a fucking brick, as Ren Sinclair points out to you 20 seconds later.
That was funny. The interaction here, that part made me laugh. I'm glad that at least we had the Spanish speakers interacting with each other. But it made me laugh at that one point. And she's like, oh, yeah, I wanted you to win. Jada still has another opportunity to win the match by being the last chance next week. So still, I was like, what are you going to do to interrupt that match too? So it's like, if you're not part of the Iron Survivor, why would you want Stephanie to win? It shouldn't really matter who wins, really, because they're not going against you. But this is the only part in this continuity to the Lola Ren match that we get a little bit. So if you want to combine it at this point. Yeah. But this is a part that bothered me because we have mentioned this not too long ago, that are we going to have Lola having her final match with that person to end the feud always be an underground match? Because it just seems like the way of protecting her. I was hoping they were done because of the match they had already on the ECW night in NXT. And then now she's like, oh, you mean underground? I was like, again, it's like underground feels special, and now it doesn't, just because it's like the exclamation point they have to like end her feuds every single time. And it's just like, it feels like a way to protect her more than anything. And it's like, why? I don't get it. Like,
she can't wrestle. That's the why. She can't wrestle, so they have
even
to
tonight,
underground.
And even tonight, like this was another exhibit. Like I watching her versus Ren. Ren just did so incredible compared to her. And I was like, and then she wins. And it's like, why? I didn't want that. And it's like Ren did so well in this match with her mat wrestling. It was so impressive to watch. And I wanted to watch her, just her, longer, not Lola, just her if I could. Because she did so well with it. I did like the part that at one point her hand is on the steel steps and Charles tells her to stomp on it, and she hesitates about it, and that causes her the match. But even at that point, she drop kicks Lola to the steel steps. Lola takes 2 seconds to sell it, and she's back on like nothing happened. As you just reminded me of the part with the brick. And it's like,
Yeah.
didn't you get hit with the steel steps like 2 seconds ago? Here, you're giving her a back fist and winning the match.
And the back fist that hits her in the middle of the chest. Not even. It needs to be higher. It needs to be closer. Like with Andrade. Andrade's spinning back elbow thing that he does.
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic and it looks
Beautiful.
good because he puts it right on the shoulder, 3 inches from the guy's face,
Mm-hmm.
because he knows what he's going to do.
Yeah.
And Ava can't do that. You know what? After this, I looked up her MMA fight record. You know how she touts that she's this fantastic MMA fighter, right? She's 4-1. She had 5 MMA fights. She had 2 more MMA fights than CM Punk did. And I
Dang.
think she had less than Lashley and Jake Hager.
Mm-mm.
Like, this is fucking ridiculous. And she lost one of those fights, too.
And I hate how they protect her with the underground match. It's like I said, it's just like now underground doesn't feel as special as it used to be because we will get it every now and then, but now we get it every few weeks, basically, whenever she enters feuds.
Yep.
And that's the match she wins.
Yep. We have Will popping in and saying, as an NBA fan, how long before we call Lola a bust? I know she came in during the as our friend Mel Ball Collins would say, the Dimension era when Vince was the GM, but still, I agree. I'm all for people getting the opportunity to learn. I was very harsh, very, very harsh on Lash Legend for a long time. And rightfully so. Rightfully so. I will admit, rightfully so. She was really, really bad when she started. However, she put in the work. She put in the effort. She put in the ring time. And Lash Legends is one of the better women's competitors on the NXT roster and could very well be on the main roster with the talent of the women's division right now. She could learn everything else she needs to learn on that main roster from that talented roster. There's nothing stopping her from leveling up her game to the level she needs to be on the main roster just by simply being there. Look at Tiffany Stratton. Tiffany Stratton did not have everything she needed to be a main roster star, but all she needed was an opportunity. The fan base loves her. The people backstage love her. She's in a prominent role on pretty much every episode of SmackDown right now.
Yeah.
Versus Kiana James, who needed more time, needed a defined character, and needed more work in NXT. And now she's not only hurt, but even before she was hurt, she had no role after being drafted to the roster. That's the difference. A Lash Legend will be ready to go in this next draft. Bring Kiana James back down, pair her with Izzy Dame, give the two of them a fucking character, and then let them go up to the main roster as a tag team. Because honestly, I think as a tag team, they're actually pretty good. From the small glimpses we saw of her and Izzy, they worked as a tag team. Send them to Impact. Lord knows Impact could use a couple female tag teams right now. God. Do they even have any female tag teams left in Impact? Besides the champions?
Not right now.
Speaking of Ava earlier, Logan thinks that the new bloodline... No. They are not bringing the bloodline down to deal with this Ava thing. They're going to keep mentioning the bloodline just because they want to keep reminding us that Ava is part of that tradition. They're not going to put her as part of the story. It's not going to happen. The only reason they gave us clues to that in the beginning is because they were hoping, I think, to bring Naomi into the story at one point as part of the bloodline. That's my thought. But we move on. We also have Nikita and Ashanti getting involved in the Carmen Petrovic and Ashanti soap opera. I mean, let's be honest. Nikita's not wrong. Ashanti will never choose somebody like Carmen Petrovic when he has a choice of Nikita Lyons. One, because Ashanti's an idiot, and he probably doesn't care about anything political. And two, well, look at Nikita. Although, congratulations to Carmen Petrovic for winning her Bloodsport match.
Yes.
She knocked out, what is it, Sumi Sakai, if I remember correctly. Poor Sumi. The first real Ring of Honor Women's Champion, even though everybody claims that it's Roxanne Perez.
Oh my God. Get over it, sir.
Roxanne Perez Sumi Sakai. And then, like you said, then we got Ren versus Lola with the tease of Parker versus Vice and Underground. And I'm just praying that Jada Parker wins that match. One, because maybe it might finally get Lola Vice off of our TV screen. And two, because Jada could honestly use a bit of a heat up at this point because she's feeling like she's starting to cool off. Not her talent in the ring, not her matches, but her character work is starting to cool off because they have her in this godforsaken feud with Lola Vice. Tatum is playing with her dolls before a terrible toxic comes up and takes her dolls away from her and calls her a freak, which, I mean, you've got Jazmyn Nix standing right next to you. Why are we calling Tatum the freak? For all the reasons that we don't need to mention. Jazmyn Nix. Anyways. Tatum says that she's going to wish she didn't do that because her past is going to come back to haunt her as she's playing with a red-headed doll, or as I was corrected in the Discord chat, orange hair, which orange hair is considered a redhead. Just so we're clear.
Yeah.
Will jumps in the chat and says, I knew when WWE got Stephanie Vaquer, Giulia, and Zarya, that's them saying without saying that's time for women in Lola to step up or get left behind. No, not. So here's the thing. It's not so much that they're doing that to make more women step up or step back. It's to make sure that they continue to have a flowing product of main event level stars in the event Becky Lynch chose not to come back after taking time off. If Charlotte Flair decides that she's had enough of the in-ring lifestyle and wants to be an influencer, which is something that Charlotte Flair's, but we know she's potentially trying to do. There were rumors of her and Andrade doing a reality show at one point. She's been trademarking her actual real name for the potential of using it in the future in media and things like that. I mean, she's not one to sit here and sit back. She has plans to be more than just a professional wrestler at some point. The four horsewomen themselves, including Bayley, are probably starting to get closer to the end of their run than the beginning of their run. And as many women as we have in that division on the main roster, it's not as deep as people would like to think it is. Especially when we have a women's United States and Intercontinental Champion. By the way, good job, Raw, for putting the touting of your brand new Women's Intercontinental Championship before the fucking show went on the air. What the fuck are they thinking? Come on.
And to add to your point too, I always think about it this way with it comes to like the women's division especially. It always feels like there's seasons. It's like this is a particular season and these are the girls that are in this season and all of a sudden they pass by and they go move on. So there's a new crop and a new season coming that will be the people that are like basically the foundation of that women's division. You know, we see people like Roxanne, who is the current season, but will be moving on pretty soon, whether it's now or closer to like WrestleMania season. But people like her, maybe a little bit of Cora, because she has a, not because of her wrestling, but because she has the experience. And I feel like her and Roxanne could do stuff together in the main roster. But they always see like one or two, three girls that they could say, it's your time to move on, and there's new girls that are basically going to take your place, kind of thing. And I always see that kind of like revolving door, to put it like that. It's like where some people are leaving, so new people will be coming in. So I always see it as like, I feels like a new season, and it's like new people are coming in. So it's like you gotta take those spots, because I see it like I don't want to say replacing them, but it almost feels like a list. And it's like, if you're taking this person away from the list, you gotta put somebody else in there that will take that spot and fill it out throughout the show, and be that person and be that spotlight. And it's like, if we saw that the four horsewomen were that spotlight for quite a while at this point, and I feel like now it's just the point that they are the locker room leaders and giving that spot to other younger girls and training them to help out the future of the women's division. We saw like with BFAB, if you see the behind the scenes video of her with Bailey, you can see that Bailey's that locker room leader that we have right now, versus people like BFAB. They're pushing for her to get more training, to get more spotlight. People like her performance and praising her for it. So it's like you see things like that happening, versus like you have people like BFAB and even Electra, and even to put it like that, Maxine, that were taken from NXT in such a weird time, because they didn't have a lot of training when they left NXT. So now they're training while they're in the main roster. So they're like in a very awkward spot too. But again, I'm glad that they're training and getting those opportunities to grow even in the main roster.
Yeah. And like you said, like people forget, we love NXT, but we got to remember it's developmental. These people are supposed to come here, be here for a while, and move on. We're not supposed to get these people permanently. We're not supposed to get attached. We're like fosterers for like pets. We bring the pets in, we foster them until we can find them a good home, then we send them away. Hopefully we can send them to better homes than. It's a bad idea to have two. WWE can't do two women's world champions, tag team champions, as it is. Not to mention having a U.S. and an Intercontinental Championship on top of it. They have the talent, but they don't have the capability of telling compelling stories.
I think the only thing that will help will be the time. Once we have both shows being 3 hours, it will give a little bit more time for that to get developed. So hopefully that will be the driving factor.
Oh, God, I hope so. We move on to the first of our two North American Championship matches, with Shawn Spears taking on Tony D'Angelo. This match was fine, I guess. I mean, all right. I'm done with Tony D'Angelo. I'm done. I don't need him. I don't want him. I don't like him. Bring him to the main roster or fire him. I don't care. They don't do anything compelling with him. His matches are fine, but I just don't give a damn about any story that he's been in since Legato. That's a long time that I haven't.
Not even the Obafemi one?
Well, I was invested in that because of Obafemi, not because of Tony D'Angelo.
Oh no.
I didn't care about Rocky D'Angelo. I cared about Obafemi, my boy, my big precious boy.
Who we haven't seen ever since. Hi Oba.
Oba, if you want to come on screen somewhere on a Tuesday, you're more than welcome here. I'll kick Ashford out for that. We don't need to have Ashford here if I have you. It's fine. We can sit here and we can talk about anything you want, Mr. Obafemi. If you want, you're welcome here anytime. But no, I don't care about Tony D'Angelo. I don't care about his family. I don't care about anything that they're doing. This would have been a good opportunity to put a title on Shawn Spears. I know Shawn Spears is here to be a gatekeeper. Shawn Spears is here to be a teacher. He's not here to be a champion. But I think there could have been a lot of fun with putting a North American Championship on him. You dinged up Tony D'Angelo, so it makes sense. You go ahead and you put the title on Shawn Spears here, and you continue to bring in this cult leader type vibe. Like, he's not a cult leader in the Bray Wyatt sense. He's a cult leader in the Manson sense, in not Marilyn, Charles. He's more like a Charles Manson, like, I can help you find your potential. I can help you do the things you need to do. He's the Kool-Aid drinking, like, you know, compound up in the mountains kind of like cult leader. Not like Bray Wyatt. There's a complete difference in the two types of people I'm trying to talk about. And I understand that Bray Wyatt looked a lot like a Charles Manson type with the whole thing. But like, there's a different vibe. This one's all about gaslighting, whereas Bray Wyatt was trying to find broken toys and show them how to fix themselves. Whereas here, this is Shawn Spears taking advantage of people and gaslighting them into doing the things he needs them to do. And I think that there's a lot of room for something like, especially in NXT, where you're doing developmental, where you have these young people, like a Finley Brogan or whatever the fuck his name is, Brogan Finley or Brogan piece of shit. You know who I'm talking about? The third generation Finley kid that's in NXT.
Yes,
what the hell
Brogan Finley, aka
Yes,
Uriah Connors.
Uriah Connors. That's the name I was trying to fuck. I'm like Brogan, Uriah. There's all kinds of crap names in there somewhere, but I know. But like,
Sorry, it was nice to see you struggle for a minute there.
I struggle every day trying to remember this bullshit. Because honestly, this match is literally Spears versus D'Angelo. D'Angelo wins. That's my entire note taking for this match. And the rest of this is just all off the top of my head. But like, there's so many good young talents in the PC that you don't need to have them on TV every week. You just have to have Shawn Spears talking to nameless, faceless people. And now without a Chase U, there's a perfect opportunity to do something like this with Shawn Spears, now that you don't have all of these people going to an Andre Chase. I just think that there's something there with Shawn Spears that I think giving him a champion, even for a short time, I think there's something fun to do with Spears in that realm of thing. But this match did nothing for me from the D'Angelo side.
I enjoyed it just because I like that aspect of more of like Shawn with his mind games, because at first not much happens, but he notices Tony struggling with his knees, so he's like, I got a spot there in a second that I can go to. And I think the interesting part is seeing, like, especially that guy Nico, because I just introduced him out of nowhere and we don't know much about him or his background. So seeing that part of like Shawn being this character with the mind games and just like, and seeing how it affects somebody like Tony who doesn't do anything like that at all, I think it's interesting to see, especially towards the end, because after Tony retains, they're all beating him up, and then here comes Nico, joins in. But then as they're all like kind of like celebrating that they beat up Tony, they're staring at Rizzo in such a way that was very intriguing for me. It's like, what is gonna happen there? And I feel like things like that are very interesting, especially just because before this, they were backstage before he was getting ready for the match, and she's like, "Oh, where are the guys?" And he's like, "Oh, they're just balling somewhere, doing their own thing. Like, don't worry about it. They can do their thing, and I can do mine here with you," kind of thing. So it's interesting to think about, like, this is the moment that they don't have the guys next to them. Rizzo obviously can't do too much. He can't get in there. So Tony's all by himself when this happens, even though he wins at the end. So it's like, I thought that was pretty interesting, especially the part here with the knee injury too. I like the story with Oba too, but at the same time, I miss Oba after him being off TV since everything's happened. But yeah, just like I feel like there's something that could be done here with the part of Tony. It was like how, I don't want to say how they turned Tony, but how they involve him in this story with Shawn. It's something interesting for me.
Hello, Malbal. We'll be talking about you in just a few moments, but we'll get there. We see Andre Chase packing up the classroom. He takes one last look. He turns the lights off. He leaves. And then a voice from the other end of the hallway calls out to him. And you posted something that you saw from Twitter. It was something that reminded me of what I saw. Sounded a lot like Bodie Hayward, didn't it? And remember, to be very clear, While NXT told us that they had to disband Chase University if he lost, the agreement that Ridge made with Andre Chase was he had to cut Thea, Duke, and Riley free. It doesn't mean he has to shut down the university. He had to stop associating with them. And I think that there's room to tweak this if they decide to. If they don't decide to have him find his bravado, I think that there's definitely room to bring Bodhi back if he's not all elite. If he's done being all elite, then he can come back.
And I feel like you said with the wording here, he just talks about like more than anything, he said like disbanding that relationship between all four of them, not the school itself. So it's like I think about it this way: there's a whole classroom of students there. You're only taking out 4 of them, and there's 20. So it's like, what happened to the rest of them? Are you gonna abandon them too? It's like I feel like you could do more with that. He never said, "Oh, I'm take away the Chase U." I want to, disband you guys as a whole. And I feel like they went back and forth on the wording because at some points they did mention it like disbanding the relationship, or at times they said disbanding Chase U. But I'm like, but they are Chase U though. They have been Chase U this whole time. So it's like I feel like they could go either way and say, "Oh no, you said this, but that's why we're doing this." So I feel like it definitely like play with that wording somehow there. I did like that we only got that video package with Andre, but there's no sign of the trio in any way, shape, or form. I like how it's only the voiceovers from like their moments in Chasey, but we don't see them. We don't have the visual of them there. But I did like the tweeting asking if she still has her degree though.
And to go back a bit, because I missed this comment as we were sitting here talking. Ricky Starks saves the men's division, take all the titles after he gets free from Tony Khan and free to Lucha Brothers. Yeah, Ricky Starks is in an interesting place. And, I mean, there's no better interview series, other than Astrid Asks, than to go watch Insight with Chris Van Vliet. And go ahead and check out today's episode with Ricky Starks. It's a fantastic listen. I've already listened to it. I thought it was great. I think the world of Ricky Starks. I think he should have been the pillar that they pushed. I think they've made a terrible decision with picking Darby Allin as the pillar that they want to push. But Tony Khan.
I would rather take out two letters from those pillars and have Ricky there instead.
You want to remove MJF and Darby Allin?
No, take out just MJF. Darby's okay. But I would take out MJF. He's gone stale, so.
Darby Allin is just a worse version of Jeff Hardy. Will says, HBK saw how sad you were last week. He might have seen how sad we were. But no, I wish the best for Ricky Starks. He's seemingly caught in a really tough situation, especially with the news that broke tonight about him and GCW and that whole fiasco that I'm not allowed to get into, so I'm going to avoid it for now. We'll talk about it on Sunday when I can con Bobby into letting me talk about it on the air. And I think I've hit my limit of bad things I can talk about AEW this week. The best match on the show by far and away, Giulia versus Kelani Jordan. This match was a banger. They had so much time. I feel like they were just told, go out there. We'll tell you when to stop. Just keep doing your thing until we tell you to stop. Because I felt like there was 3 or 4 spots where this match could have ended if they wanted to throughout this match. And they didn't. And it was great. Like, Giulia getting out of the Swanton Bomb finish that Kelani does was great. Kelani avoiding so many things. This was Giulia's best match here in NXT. Not her best match ever. I'm not naive enough to think that she's never had a better match than that. But the matches that we've seen here in NXT, this is by far the best chemistry she's had with anybody. Which is shocking considering she's been in the ring with Roxanne Perez already. Yeah. And I don't count the 5-person tag because she looked great in that, but she wasn't really in that for all that long. It doesn't count. But this match was fantastic. They went, God, I feel like they went 10, 15 minutes here. They probably didn't go that long, but it felt like they went 10, 15 minutes. It felt like they got all the time in the world to do everything they wanted. Slipping in and out, everything looked crisp, everything looked clean. That finish that Giulia, God, that knee is just like, it's not a running knee. It's just all of a sudden she just knees you in the face and then hits you with that finish and it's done. So much better than our women's North American champions finish.
Oh gosh. Oh well. No, but I agree with you. I feel like this was definitely the best match Giulia has had so far. I like the chemistry they have with each other, the back and forth they had to the reversals. I feel like there were so many things that did here. Even at one point, that submission that she has on Kalani and the way that Kalani tries to like pin her not once but twice in there too. It's like, and Kalani, it almost seemed like she was fading. So I was like, dang it, did she have it there? I was like, I didn't want it to end that way because I wanted to get a little bit more out of the match. So I'm glad they had a little bit more afterwards. But again, it's like, and there was a one point that at first I thought it was a mistake. So I was going to be like, oh no, I don't like it. The way that Kalani lands, and then Giulia went to grab Kalani's feet, and Kalani went back to like give her feet so she can grab it for the pinfall. But then she like reversed it and actually turned around for her to do a pinfall. And I was like, that was really nice and well done. And yeah, it's like they had such a great back and forth here. I enjoyed it so much. I did like the fact that they show us. I think this is the only time they show Roxy watching somebody's match for the Iron Survivor Qualifier, which I thought was really interesting. Out of all the matches we had so far, this is the only one she was watching. But again, it's like I love the chemistry they had. They did really well. I could have done with more time if they had more time too, because I was enjoying it. I didn't want it to end. But yeah, it was interesting because like I said last week with Kimmy, between this match and then Jada and Stephanie, I feel like NXT was sort of in a pickle because at the same time I know that they want to pick Giulia and Stephanie because of their star power, but you could have put Kelani and Jada in there too, and it's like, and I know one of them is gonna get that, one of them is gonna get that solo spot next week, but still, it's like you could have had so many choices to be in this match. I don't know how
One
they
of them is
did it.
not getting that spot next week.
I mean, one of the four. I mean, in general, like just
Oh, okay.
just the
I was
two
going
of
to
them.
say, I thought we were talking about just Kalani and Jada. I'm like, no,
No,
neither of them are winning that match.
no,
next
it's like
week.
one of the four is gonna get that spot, but it feels like bittersweet because you could have put Jada and Kalani in there too, and it still would have been a great match. But like I was saying with Kimmy last week, it's like it's a good problem to have. You have so many women that you wouldn't know who to pick to put in there either way. But again, I figured this is one of those that as much as we enjoyed it, we already kind of had a feeling that Julia was gonna win it either way. We didn't think Kalani was gonna had that spot there, but either way, they had fun, and I feel like that's gonna make it fun next week too.
I had the feeling that once Stephanie and Zarya both were in the match, we knew we were getting Giulia.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I know my fantasy booking was silly, but like I think it would have been fun and interesting to have had Roxanne have to defend inside the Iron Survivor. And I think giving her the champion's prerogative of, do you want to be the first in or do you want to be the last in? Giving her the choice of picking where she starts as champion so that she's not necessarily at a disadvantage. It'll be like, look, these are your four challengers. You take out Sol Ruca, you put in Roxanne Perez. Cora Jade's going to probably almost guarantee to win that match next week. So she's going to be in. And you have the four people that I asked to be put in that match with Roxanne right there ready to go. So my bookie was pretty much on the dot with the fact that I pull out Sol Ruca. But like, I think it's going to be great when it's just, it would have been an opportunity. And again, to continue that storyline that you were telling, that apparently somehow has been dropped randomly to do this Eddie Thorpe story. But you had this opportunity to go ahead and do, Ava being like, well, look, these two have wins over you already, so they're in. And then do qualifying matches for other people, and you get Cora and you get Giulia.
I think the only thing that would have made it be in a pickle if Roxanne would have put the championship there is because it seems the way it's going that she's not going to drop it until around WrestleMania time when she gets called up. Yeah. So it's like you will have to really, really, really protect her carefully while you're building the match so she doesn't lose the championship during this. So I think that would have been the only, like, I don't want to say problem, but it would have been the only concern, I guess, they would have had in the match. Like you said, I like how it continues that storyline of, like, when Ava keeps posting on, like, she's still champion, like, I put her against this person, and then she's still champion. Put her in this predicament, she's still champion. So I feel like that would have been a fun way to continue the story. And also because I don't want to say it odd, but it just feels weird to have a pay-per-view like this is the last pay-per-view of the year, and then we have no Roxanne participation whatsoever.
Yeah. Will jumping in saying that he's going to cry when he eventually gets to see Giulia versus Bianca Belair. It'll be a great match. I'm very excited for that match when it eventually comes. We then get, as we've just talked about, we get the segment where Ava has a bunch of the people who have already lost. And she says that all of the people who have lost, like every year, are going to go into a last chance for a fatal four-way match. Whenever that match will get the fifth and final spot in the matches. Makes perfect sense. So that means that we're getting Lexis King versus Axiom versus Eddie Thorpe versus
Cedric.
Cedric Alexander. Yes. A whole bunch of nothing. A whole bunch of nothing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Are any of them going to win the Iron Survivor, or can we just go with a four-man Iron Survivor for the men?
I don't care. You can put Axiom in there. Axiom anything could just do this whole match. I would love it.
Axiom's already mad that he's apparently now going to have to, as after this, we find out that the tag team championships are going to be on the line. And that means that Axiom is potentially working double duty. Nathan Frazier is absolutely working double duty. As Nathan was quick to point out, Axiom, brother man, amigo, is apparently the only word of Spanish that Nathan Frazier knows is amigo.
Yeah.
It goes ahead and says, you know, I'm working double duty, but we don't know if you are. He's feeling more and more like Seth Rollins every day. Just can't keep his foot out of his fucking mouth.
Like father, like son.
You know. Will says it feels like they're setting up Roxanne. Don't want to face Giulia. And I think that matches that Stand and Deliver. I think it's like Hope heel Becky was ducking Bianca. I don't think that word was what it was supposed to be. I'll be honest, I read most of that and I missed that word when I originally read it. So I just gotta assume it's Hope. We're gonna go with Hope. Anyways. No, so then that means
no, I think it'd be how it could be because the H is next to the E.
That would work too. That works. I just hope it wasn't that. I just hope it wasn't that word because it would be bad. I don't like that word. Anyway, no, and then that means for the women we are getting Cora Jade versus three people who are going to lose, which are Ben Sinclair, Jada Parker, and Kelani Jordan. Again, three people who are going to lose to Cora Jade because Cora Jade is absolutely going in that match. And I'll be honest, I think Cora Jade's going to win that match if she's in it.
The idea I'm thinking too is like we have, obviously that gives the Roxanne the night off. She may help her win too.
That's what I'm thinking. No, you're fine. Will, we know you enough to know that that's probably not what it was. But like I said, I was just reading it out loud and I read to it. I'm like, oh, wait, that doesn't seem right.
That sounds funny though.
Like I said, we're not picking on you. We have to pick a little bit on you, but not like I said. You've been nothing but kind in these chats. Like I said, I assumed it was just a gentle mistake, and I was trying to find any word that would make it make sense. And I'm like, hope. Hope is a good word. We'll use hope. Hey, Bobby Stats is here. Hello, Bobby Stats. Thank you for joining us. Yeah. So we're getting ready to move on to right about our main event here. Oh no. This is where the tag teams get into it as Eddie's trying to talk to Ava. And she gets hit by the door when Bronco Nima throws Mark Coffey into the door, and that hits Ava and knocks her down. We then go to a commercial break where HBK is there talking, and Eddie Thorpe comes over, and she says, I was talking to Eddie. He grabbed me, and she stops talking because she doesn't know who was on the other side of the door. And also, she clearly never says that Eddie Thorpe hit her. She just said he had touched me, and that.
Bingo.
And then HBK, becoming 1997 HBK again, grabs Eddie Thorpe and pins him against the wall. And if Mel's still here, we'll do this. Yeah, so Eddie Thorpe's turning heel.
Mhm.
What do you think about that, Astrid?
I mean, as much as I want to see more from him, squeak. I feel like I'm glad that at least finally he has some kind of direction because I just felt I don't want to say bad, but I just felt bad that we get a little bit of him and then he gets off TV for some reason and then a little bit more and then off TV is like that doesn't help me because as much as I like his background, there's not enough for me to care about him. So it's like at this point I care a little bit more because I seen him almost on a weekly basis trying to talk to Ava and that's gonna spark something, whatever that is.
Yeah.
So either way, I'm glad he has something going on for himself. For once, I just hope that whatever happens, if he does turn heel, don't end it abruptly and keep it going from there. Because that's usually the trend we have from him. Is like something happens, it stops, and he's off TV for a little while, and then he comes back, whatever. And it's like it doesn't help that there's no continuity in here in any way, shape, or form with him. So it's like it doesn't. And whenever I see him, I'm like, oh, he's here finally, something. So
And before we get to our main event here and talk about what's coming up next week on the show, we're going to go ahead and hit you with the what's rest of the rest of the week on our local establishment.
Please note.
Never gonna stop, never gonna change, never gonna do the things you say. I run my own way to get there. Pulls a coin and I don't seem to care. In the air, no more crowd, just the opposite kind of few clouds. So tell me this time is coming, for the sake of all your lies. Why don't you try to be wise? Know that I need you anyway.
Wanted to be alive, just to feel like I'm fading. And though my heart breaks a beat down, I cross the lines just to tell you, don't even wait, don't even say that I try with a child's parade. I feel like I'm fading.
So yes, that's the wonderful things that you can see this week on our local establishment. As we found out, like I said, we have the 2 fatal 4-way matches, one for the men, one for the women, to get the final member of the Iron Survivor matches. We're also going to have a tag team battle royal because shock, after all of the bullshit that she's launched this tag team division into, we're getting a battle royal.
took her long enough.
Which is what we should have announced 3 weeks ago when she sat down and had a meeting with everybody. We should have had a battle royal 3 weeks ago so they could have defended the titles at the pay-per-view anyways.
I stand by my point. It could have been an email.
Could have been an email. But yeah, so those are the things that we know for certain are going to be happening next week. And we move to, I'm sorry. We do have one more segment that I was trying to ignore because I know Ashford's not thrilled with it. Trick Williams comes out and starts talking trash about Ridge Holland, about how he's acting all high and mighty and excited that he broke down Chase University. Ridge comes out to try to talk crap, but again, Ridge is cut off very, very quickly. Thank God. And Uncle Eric came out to play. I'm so happy. Uncle Eric is here, Astrid. He's going to be here next week.
Yeah, sure.
Come on. It's Eric Bischoff.
X-Pac is coming next week.
Yeah, fuck that
Yes.
fuck. Like Booker T when we brought up the NWO, and then she's like, I was in for a week, and then Shawn Michaels kicked me out.
I like how
Shawn
Big
Michaels
Bob
also,
referenced-
he didn't just kick him out verbally. He literally kicked Booker T.
I
Sweet
just
Chin
love
Music him out.
I just love how Vic does it on purpose. Like, weren't you in the NWO? Because he knew the answer, and it was
Yeah.
so funny, like the sarcasm he got him.
Yep.
Jeff's kiss.
Yeah, that's great. I'm very excited. Eric Bischoff is he's the one night shot general manager for MLW coming up. He was a person who used to run WCW until it ran itself into the ground because of terrible contracts. He's back and he's better than ever.
Sure. I did like the part with the Candy Crew though, because it's just so funny seeing Charlie. It's like when the guys are like, "Oh, we were just brawling outside, like no big deal," and then Ren's like, "I was getting myself checked out," and she's like, "Oh, Lola hits real hard," and then she's like, "Well," he's like, "Well, you missed two announcements. First, the tag team battle royal, and then second, the last chance fatal four." She goes, Am I supposed to fight all of them at the same time? I can't do that." Her reaction was just so funny though.
Yeah, it was great. And then we do have Will saying, I do love that last week, Raw, NXT, and SmackDown were main evented by women. And yes, so far, they last 5 shows have been main evented by women's matches.
Yes,
Mhm.
we love to see it.
You do love to see it. WWE, with the women's divisions, are taken seriously. Unlike AEW, where they have a go-home show on a pay-per-view. AEW Women's Champion had a go-home show promo package on a pay-per-view card.
I know. We're moving on to the main event.
Are we? Are we not allowed to talk about that one?
No.
In the main event, we saw Terrible Toxic defending. And I might as well all have been defending because they all got involved. So the entirety of Terrible Toxic defended the Women's North American Championship against poor Tatum Paxley. Tatum's great. I love Tatum. She's getting better and better week in and week out. I will say, Fallon's in-ring work is getting really good. She still sucks on the microphone. She still sucks in this faction. She still has no gimmick whatsoever, but her in-ring work is getting better and better every week.
I know this is me wishing because I wanted it to happen, not because I knew it was going to happen. But I would have preferred that Gigi interruption happened during the match so Tatum could have won. That would have been chef's kiss for me. Like, I would have loved that ending, though. But I did like having that, like, the Tatum's 450 splash was really well done. I did like the fact that I think it was, like, more towards the end of the match when Jacy goes to interrupt again. Tatum has a scouted this time around, so she goes to kick her instead and take her out. And after Fallon retains, I thought it was funny because when the whole Gigi thing happens, they keep the camera angle too much to the entrance, and you see the fans pointing out, like the dad was pointing out at the kid, is like, no, she's behind them. She's behind them already. And then Jazmyn turns around before the other two, looks at her, and legit slips out of the ring, like, quickly. It's like, and you're not helping your teammates. Why?
Yep. I thought that was my favorite part of this whole thing is Jazmyn just sees Gigi is like, fuck this shit, I'm done.
She's the first one. She like looked, went like this, and then poof, she was out. All you saw was the smoke coming out after she left. And I was like, there's 2 versus 3, so why are you leaving that quickly, honey? You still have the advantage with the numbers. That just made me laugh even more than anything. I had to note it when I saw it. It's like, okay, that was interesting. I did like how it goes back to what Tatum said earlier of like your past will come back to haunt you, and we get Gigi returning finally. So it'll be interesting that we have a 2 versus 3. So who'll be the next one to join in to go against Terrible Toxic Trio?
Ariana Grace, obviously.
Probably.
We need to pick up the thread of that storyline from before Gigi got hurt. We need to pick it up.
That's true.
She's still due a makeover, even though she had a good new look tonight. Wearing her corset to the ring is much better than whatever her other ring attire used to be. But no, I mean, I've always been a Gigi Dolan fan here. As we know, when we had to pick sides of the breakup of Toxic Attraction, I did pick Gigi Dolan, you picked Jacy Jayne. And I've clearly come out the winner in all of this. Jacy Jayne is clearly the loser in all of this. As I said to you in the chat when Vic goes, Jacy Jayne's gonna get hit so hard her makeup's gonna come off. I'm like, no, Vic. He's wearing much too much makeup for any of it to come off.
Jeez. I'm glad your haterade is done.
No, I got one last swig left if I need it. Bobby's interested in seeing them do Fallon Henley versus Gigi Dolan. I don't think Gigi's there for the Women's North American Championship. I'll be honest with you.
She's there for revenge.
In a feud I really thought I was done with, and I really wished I was done with. Apparently, it's come back.
This is for me one of the biggest. If you want to say a what if from wrestling, this is one of the biggest for me because I would have done without that breakup. They would have been fine on their own as a tag team. Would have been great as part of the women's division and the tag team division. They could have been in Saudi in that match. All those other things they could have done if they just kept them together.
Yeah. And back to my WWE where the best women wrestle. Phil goes, except for a few. I mean, I'm not going to give you Saray. Like, I'll give you Mercedes is a very talented in-ring worker, although I have...
Oh, I think he meant sorry. Isn't it sorry, AWM Mercedes? He might have been
I thought he was talking about Saray. I was like, I'm not going to give you Saray. Like, she's fine, but we had her in NXT for a long time, and she couldn't do nothing.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't even like they were just poorly doing anything with her. Like, her matches weren't even that. No, I mean... Mercedes is fine, I guess. I mean, her comment about her going to AEW to make it the best women's promotion in all of wrestling, really coming back to Hunter real quick. Because she's taking her sweet-ass time making it the best women's division in all of wrestling, isn't she?
No comment.
What do you mean, no comment? You're our women's wrestling expert.
I'd never claimed to be an expert. That's you saying that.
We have always said that you were the expert on that.
Yeah, it's not self-proclaimed, and I can tell you that much.
Go ahead and talk about this.
You know how it is. You can find me on my Twitter, Blue Skies, Astrid Pizarro, and my Instagram and Threads, Astrid Pizarro20. And if you're here, you're most likely watching on my YouTube channel. If you could click the thumbs up and hit the like on that button there, like button on my video. If not, you can also subscribe and click on that bell to be notified when I upload or go live. And I will be back next week with this one here. We do have Santana joining us for the post show for Deadline. Still looking for somebody for the pre-show, so we'll see how that goes. We're in brainstorming, so well, we as in me. So we'll see how that goes.
Hey. I have a brain activity every now and then. You can find me on Twitter at EdFries12584. You can follow me at the same place on the Blue Sky, but I have no clue what the fuck I'm doing there, so I'm probably not going to put a whole hell of a lot there.
You found the Blue Skies?
I did find the Blue Skies after I was told that I had to find the Blue Skies by a couple of random people. I won't mention any names, Tom Collier. But no, I'm there. I don't know what I'm doing. There's not a whole lot on there for me, so I don't check it very often. But you can also find me on the Twitch at twitch.tv/EdFries2002. Speaking of Santana, we're getting a double dose of Santana this week. Within the course of 10 days, we're getting Santana twice because she's going to be joining me and Andre C as we do Marvel Talk tomorrow in our MCU Rebound episode of Black Widow. Yes, we're putting Black Widow where it rightfully belongs in this portion of the story before Infinity War, because that's where it should have been. But unfortunately, it wasn't. So check us out tomorrow night as we talk all about Black Widow. It's a fun movie. It's not a great movie, but it's a fun movie. It would have been better had it not been in Phase 4, where we already knew that she... But... lots of good things to talk about in that movie. So we're excited to talk about that. You can also catch me potentially this Saturday night as we go ahead and talk about all things Survivor War Games. Bobby Munson's on that show. Mark Talks Wrestling is apparently camping out to try to be on that show. We're trying to get anybody else to be on that show instead. So, let us know. You can also catch me, Bobby Munson, Andre C., and Mark Talks Wrestling on Sunday morning as we have Point of View, where we go ahead and make NFL predictions and talk about soccer for like 10 minutes so I can zone out and play on my phone. It's a wonderful time. But go ahead and check us out. And like Ashford said, next week we'll be back with a pre-show and a post-show for NXT Deadline. It's going to be a fun time. And you will have another guest host on December 17th as I will be live at NXT on December 17th. Yeah. I decided to do what Astrid should have been doing months ago and randomly going live to the NXT shows.
Hey, it's easier for you than it is in Orlando getting picked to be there. I filled it out. I just don't get picked.
Sure. Sure. But thank you for joining us. We greatly appreciate it, and we will see you all next time. Goodbye.
I am in misery.